I've talked quite a bit on this channel about the things I want and the things I don't want in a new Batman game, and that could go for either an Arkham setting or an entirely new type of universe. But today, I wanted to talk about 5 things I'd want in a new Batman game because I think that there's a few ideas that either have been done, but I think we can improve on in a new title, or some things that haven't been done at all and something I would like to see implemented in going into future titles. So that's what we're going to be going over today. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe for more content, and let's get right into this. Now, I'm going to start this one off with some smaller potato things that aren't really as important to me, but I wanted to talk map size here because I think that kind of builds the overall base for your game. If you don't have a decent map size, you don't really have a lot to work with, right? So, people a lot of times get the mistake that a bigger map equals a better game, and that is not always the case. For example, for someone like me, I'm not a huge fan of the map of GTA 5. I personally find it to be very, very big, too big, and I just find that a lot of it just doesn't end up getting used. So for me personally, I want something kind of built kind of similar to like an Arkham City size map, but I don't want the barrier in the middle. I think that that would be like about the perfect size map because it doesn't take too long to get around the map. It doesn't take too long to figure out your way around the map as well. And most sections of the map get used throughout the course of the game, if not all sections of the map. So I think that's the perfect size for you to be able to use because you don't really want there to be too much that doesn't get used. Like, I understand not every single inch of the map can be used. I understand that. But you also don't want a bunch of useless filler to make it bigger just for the sake of being bigger. I think with these sorts of things, you have to make them just the right perfect size, and I think that's what Batman Arkham City's map was for me personally, just because it didn't take too long to travel around, and I found that most areas of the map throughout the course of the game were useful, whether it's for main story, side missions, Riddler trophies, you name it. It got used in some sort of capacity and actually felt useful to the overall game. This could just be my recency bias talking, but the next thing I want to get into is something that we've recently had in the Arkham universe, and it's something that I think should be optional to the any sort of player in a console version of these games as well. And that's actually, I think it'd be really cool if there was a first-person mode in these games, right? And there is something into this I'm going to go into later, but for the time being, just talking purely about a first-person mode, our entire experience would have been based off of Batman Arkham Shadow, where you play that entire game in the first person mode. But what is the thing about that game that really, really sticks out for you? Like the thing that does a really good job in that game, better than any sort of game. It actually makes you feel like you're playing as Batman. And I think that that's the most important thing, because you're playing a Batman game to get the representation of what it's like to be Batman. You're not necessarily playing it for any other purpose than to actually be the Dark Knight himself. Now, I'm not saying it should be mandatory, right? I'm not saying you should have to play in the first person, but I think it'd be a really cool option. And there's something else, like I said, that I want to go into later when it comes to the combat and the stealth of being in the first person mode, because I do think that that adds a really cool element to the story overall. But yeah, I think having a first person mode would be extremely entertaining, make it optional for the player, and let them experience it for themselves and see if they like it or not. Now, the third thing I want to kind of bring in here, it's something that we've kind of already done before. It's something that has been done in Batman Arkham Origins, and it's something I want to reintroduce into a new Batman game, because I didn't really get the chance to experience this one very much, to be honest with you. I was a little bit too young at the time, I wasn't very good at it, so I didn't really enjoy playing it. But that would be the online mode, alright? I think it's a really cool concept in theory to be able to, be able to go up against people online, whether it's the Dark Knight or whether it's as a thug trying to shoot the Dark Knight and the opposing team, whether you're on Joker's side, Bane's side, whatever it is. I think it's a really cool concept and something that could be reintroduced with other game modes. It could be similar to a Call of Duty style game, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. That's kind of just an overall idea. But I do think an online mode could bring in a new variety of fans to the Batman Arkham franchise, because some people aren't into the story mode type of games. Some people want to play online. And I think if you have that option for players, it's going to bring a new fan base to that character of Batman and just the DC universe in general. Now, the fourth thing is something that already exists in the current Batman Arkham games, specifically City, Origins, and Night, but I want to expand on this idea a little bit, and this is going to tie back into what I said about the first person mode earlier, but I essentially want to add an extra layer of difficulty, or even a couple. Now, I understand there is New Game Plus, that is a thing. But New Game Plus only gets rid of like certain things, or like I shouldn't even say gets rid of certain things. Just really just adds in, a few tougher thugs. There might not be hints or whatever, but I want to take this up a level, okay? Because I think that some games do this really well. Like for example, The Last of Us with a freaking variety of different difficulty levels, but. I think that we should add in a difficulty so that, for example, there is no detective mode allowed. Right? If you have detective mode, it's kind of a massive advantage and a bit cheap, where I think that you should be able to take that away, or you can't use certain gadgets or certain types of, combat moves and techniques, just because it would make it way harder if you don't have, like, let's say the AB batarang takedown. You don't have that, the combat's going to get harder, for instance. So I think it would be cool to add in difficulty settings where certain things kind of change, or maybe if you're upgrading your armor, then you can't pause though. People could still attack you, kind of like in The Last of Us Part 2 actually. And I just think that if you add little difficulty concepts to the game, it can make these a lot more tricky, especially for those of us who have been playing these games for so long. We want that extra challenge. Well, this could be a really good way for us to get it and still enjoy the story of the Batman universe once again. However, if I was going to just choose one thing that I would say, please, can I please have this in a new Batman game out of anything in the world, it would be this one right here. I think this one is the most important thing, because while the gameplay is important, a first-person mode could be cool, online game modes, all that stuff could be cool. None of that really matters to me if there isn't a new main antagonist, a new main villain, someone new for us to have to tackle, right? And I've said this about 1,000 times. If you guys are subscribed to the channel, you know how I feel about this. I want to see some fresh blood. And as I think a lot of people do at this point. And I've gone into it 1,000 times as to why there hasn't been new blood. Because the Joker sells. He makes the company's money. But I'm not here to talk about that. I do personally believe that if we had a new main antagonist, and I'm going to get into who I think it should be, I think it's a fresh start. This is particularly if you're looking to do a new Batman Arkham game. If you're going to start in a fresh new universe, then fine, a little bit different. You can have a past, you can use one of the other commonly used ones, such as the Joker. Even the Joker would work to a certain extent. But if you're going to do a new Batman Arkham game, I got one in mind and one in mind only. And that would be a character by the name of Prometheus. And for those of you who don't know who Prometheus is, he is actually in the Batman Arkham Asylum promos, or not the promos, in the bios, excuse me, where he is essentially labeled as someone whose parents were killed by police officers, and he is set out to basically kill anybody in law enforcement due to his resentment from his parents' death. He is the exact opposite of Batman, and I think that is something that could be really, really cool in a new Batman game or a new Batman Arkham game. I would really like to see that, but that doesn't mean that characters like the Joker, characters like Two-Face, Penguin, even a Hugo Strange or a Scarecrow type, or whoever you might be thinking of, these characters could absolutely be in a new Batman game. And I'm not even just talking Batman Arkham. They could just be in a new Batman game as side characters or even part of the main story. It could just be like a bunch of these villains are tag teaming together. That could also be a cool concept. So I actually think that Prometheus would be a great main antagonist, but the reason why he isn't probably a top priority is because he's not a super well-known villain, I don't think. Like, yeah, people who know Batman will know him, but he's, like, pretty much only in, like, comic books and stuff. He's not really well-known by people who just casually watch The Dark Knight. They've played a little bit of Batman Arkham Asylum or whatever, or maybe they've played Batman the Telltale series, but if they're not really well, versed in their Batman lore, then I don't think a lot of people will know who Prometheus is. But I still think it'd be a good idea to lean into the hardcore fans, the hardcore DC fans, and kind of give them what they want with some fresh blood. And I do think Prometheus would be the best bet for that. And guys, this is 5 things that I would like to have in a new Batman game or a new Batman Arkham game. Doesn't really matter which one, it kind of applies to both. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you guys have made it this far into the video, first of all, I want to say thank you. But comment down below your gaming hot takes if you want them to be read in the next video. So I want to thank you guys so much. Let's hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs. We'll get that little live stream special going. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you all have an amazing day. Peace!